This leaflet was published by Wolverhampton Council a number of years ago, with help from the staff and students from the History Department of the then Regis School. Tettenhall is a suburb on the western side of Wolverhampton. It used to be a self-governing urban district in its own right, and there are those who believe it would be better off if that was still the case. Even today, it retains a separate identity. This trail follows a route round the village, highlighting some of the buildings and historic sites of interest. First, a look at the clock tower and the Dickens restaurant and cottages. The clock tower was presented by Mr. and Mrs. Edward Swindley on the 22nd of June 1912 to honour George V's coronation. It's been much photographed, but with little mention of the 4 inscriptions, one on each side. I labour here with all my might to tell the hours by day and night. For every hour that comes there is a hope. For every hour that strikes there is a joy. For every hour that passes there is a record. The Dickens restaurant and cottages are opposite the clock tower. The cottages have distinctive OG mouldings above their entrances and date from the first half of the 19th century. The walk now goes along Upper Green towards Limes Road. It's along here that there is the next building of note. The large building on the right is known as the Limes, a former home of Baptist minister Philip Rowe, and in the late 19th century a gentleman's boarding school. The blue plaque commemorates Dr. S.C. Dyke, last chairman of Tettenhall Council. Upper Green and Nursery Walk have some attractive rows of well-kept terraced houses. At the end of Nursery Walk are the appropriately named Nursery Walk allotments. The fourth site is at the entrance to Tettenhall College. The octagonal lodge, with its balustraded parapet and the entrance gate piers, were erected in the 1800s. The trail now takes a right fork just before the High Street and along College Road. It's down here where the next building is located. It's halfway along and is called the Old House. Dated 1725, it's early Georgian in style and is Grade 2 listed. In 1862, the founders of Tettenhall College bought it for £3,700. It became the school until the new buildings opened in 1867. For a time, it then became the headmaster's house. Continuing down College Road, there is the junction with Upper Street and Old Hill. Crossover, and number 6 is on the right of the drive. Now called the Two Greens, it was originally the Old Rose and Crown and then became the Rock Tavern. Laid out by G. Spink in 1843, its gardens hosted amusements such as dancing, fireworks and ballooning in the 1850s. Old Hill then leads to the Tettenhall Road and the Rock, past some more 19th century buildings. At the bottom of the hill is the next interesting building. The last building on the left is number 7, Rock House. This 18th century building has been the home to many local businessmen and entrepreneurs. In 1930, the Roman Catholic Church took over Rock House and used the ballroom for worship until 1965, when they moved to their new home off Wood Road. Crossing over, on the left is the Rock, carved out with gunpowder by Thomas Telford. Halfway up, there is a marker showing distances to Shrewsbury, Wolverhampton and London. Returning and going along Church Road, there are some attractive houses on the left, overlooking Lower Green on the right. In medieval times, Lower Green was much larger than the 3.5 acres it covers today. Numbers 8 and 9 are two houses just off to the right. The first house, with the green door, is of course the greenhouse. It dates from 1794, with alterations in the 19th century. Next door is the appropriately named White House, dating from around 1820. The entrance has half Doric columns. There was an interested spectator watching from a window in the White House. Not far away, at the end of Church Road, are 10 and 11, the house by the church and the Lich Gate. The house by the church used to be the vicarage. Dating from the 1820s, later in the 1800s a rear wing was added, and there was some work done by the Guild of Handicrafts. The Vicar of Tettenhall was a prominent person in a well-paid parish and would be well looked after. The Lich Gate is a timber frame on low walls and is a small gabled structure. When the church caught fire in 1950, the fire engine got trapped in the Lich Gate. There are still marks on the inside edges of the gate where the fire engine got stuck. The trail now goes through the Lich Gate and along the path to St Michael and All Angels Church. Following the fire of 1950, the tower is the only surviving section of the 14th century church. Of the original Saxon building, nothing remains. The rebuild was by Bernard Miller. Every bit of the decimated church was replaced in a Gothic style of Miller's making. There is an extensive churchyard. It is said there is the grave of someone who survived both the charge of the Light Brigade and the Indian Mutiny. Lady Fitton, a lady-in-waiting to Elizabeth I, and said to be the Dark Lady of Shakespeare's sonnets, is also buried here. There is also the grave of an armless seamstress. One story has it that she was rendered armless by God for working on a Sunday. Exiting the churchyard towards the ridge, the trail goes past the big yew trees, reputed to be 1,000 years old. The climb goes up Churchill Road and then turns left into Clifton Road. It's along Clifton Road that there is a terrace of listed houses, built during the 1800s. The wealthy of Wolverhampton were moving to Tettenhall and turning it into a suburb. Nearing Upper Green, the early 20th century arts and crafts cottages come into view. They are called End Cottage, Pound Cottage and Forge Cottage. Little else is known about their history as regards who built them and exactly when. Crossing the green on the right is the next building, Dainscourt Farm. It's late 16th century, with a window stone saying 1520. Altered during the Victorian era, it is now a private residence. And finally, the trail ends at Tettenhall Pool, not far from Dainscourt Farm. Existing since the 17th century, a Mr. Graham of the Express and Star converted it into a paddling pool in 1934. It's a popular spot from late July until school starts back in September. Stockwell Road now leads back to the junction with the Rock and Wergs Road. There are two more arts and crafts cottages up on the bank, and opposite is the clock tower where the trail started.